I'd like to call a town meeting for Thursday, October 14th, 2021 at 7:15. Roll call, Manager Silka.
Commissioner Stump.
Here.
Commissioner Atwood. Here. Commissioner Blasco.
Here.
Commissioner Zona.
Here.
Commissioner Bevan.
Here.
Commissioner Goss. Here. Commissioner Higas.
Here, could everyone please stand, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, if you could please sign the book at the desk. All right, let the record reflect no residents' input tonight. Work session discussion topics, Manager Silka.
Okay, the first item was requested by Commissioner Atwood to be put on the agenda for discussion. That is the haunted house that was stopped by the township. I don't know if the board wants to have any discussion on this.
I just would like the record to show what, basically that the email that we talked about, all the regulations with the township and then also with the state.
Sure. We did do a cease and desist for various violations of the PA Uniform Construction Code, and as well as a commercial occupancy in an R2 zoning district. So that kind of is black and white right there for a commercial use in a residential subdivision. But then what we did is we did get a email on Monday from the Department of Agriculture, the Division of Rides and Amusements, stating their concerns because they do have an application and inspection procedure to allow amusement attractions to operate. So even if the township would somehow, look the other way and allow them to operate contrary to the zoning ordinance, the state would come in and require them to meet all of their criteria.
Thank you. Any other board discussion?
Jeff, if somebody would have went to that, got injured at the house, what could have happened?
I would say that would be a personal liability because we did not permit it. That's why I think, with Director Fonzie, myself, and Mr. Wright, we decided we need to do this quick before we do get into that process.
If somebody would have gotten hurt, could that family have been sued civilly?
That's probably something to ask the solicitor, but
The family, meaning the person who was operating the amusement? Yeah, absolutely.
Would you say if it had been bad enough, the injury, could they have lost their house? I mean, in a civil court?
If they fell down and busted a finger, no. But if they busted their head and somebody was seriously injured, depending on the degree of damage, there's liability, and that liability would translate into damage to the point of, depending on how much damage there is, you could lose your house, you could lose more than just your house.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Any other board discussion? All right, thanks, Jeff.
okay. The next item, I just want to get, I provided for your review are two ordinances for dedication of roads that'll be coming up on the Wednesday agenda. One is in Weber Court, the roads, and in Brookhaven 2, Sergeant Don Caddick Way. These roads were put forth for dedication by the developer. Our interim township engineer did do the inspection. They are up to grade, and it is going to be his recommendation that the ordinances be passed accepting dedication.
Any questions?
Okay, the next issue presentation is going to be the budget presentation for 2022, which, as I think you're all aware now, we've been working on this really since March, and this budget presentation and hard copy of the budget is actually, a month ahead of what is the standard practice here. So it gives plenty of time for discussion prior to the deadline for adoption by December 31st. So just overall for the general fund budget, and I will say that this budget does not add any new programs. The staff member, there's one staff position we'll talk about a little bit later. It's added, but it's actually at 45% less than the township engineer was budgeted for last year. So that West and I then developed a spending plan and presented it. Working in conjunction with the strategic plan, some of the feedback received from the board. We put together the general fund budget. The small funds budgets are developed using historical data, current expenditures. Other than the capital fund, the dedicated service funds are tax funded to provide those services, whether it be light or water. And there are no transfers from the general fund to any fund proposed this year. Again, we concentrate on 3 levels of service: the core services, which we as a municipality are obligated to provide our residents' health, safety, and welfare. The ancillary service are enhancements of quality of life that meet a threshold for public expenditure. And the supportive services, these are services that are given as total quality of life, and usually are somehow augmented by user fees or other funding methods. In order going down cutting, if you're using like a zero-based budgeting, core services are funding first, ancillary services second, supportive services would be considered after the core and ancillary services are done. In 2021, there are no new taxes in 2022 proposed to fund the budget. The current general fund millage is 9.23 mils for general fund. The rate was reduced by 1 mil in 2013. As of January 18th, 2021, our assessed real estate value is $400,674,100, which is an increase of $5,310,000 over the same time in 2020. We will be getting our new assessed value probably by mid-November. That's when it comes out. That's why, so we're doing it early, so we're still, doing some estimates because we don't have our true numbers. We will get that from the county in mid-November. We know there'll be an increase as we factor in the increases, through the year and what we saw from our mid-year assessments and school assessments for 2021. So what I'm estimating for 2022 budget process is that 1 mil will be $421,634. Taking a look of September 13th through August 21st, the inflation rate is actually 18 or 17%. So a dollar in 2013 spends at 83 cents today, and we actually increased the rate of inflation 4% from the same time 2020. The spending power of one collectible meal after the inflation equates to $350,205. Since 2013, I've shown this a few years, the 1 meal reduction has impacted $2.8 million in spendable revenue. Our revenue continues to be flat, and pretty static, throughout the last 5 years. The chart shows 2016, our revenue is $12,152,000. In 2020, we collected $12,701,000. So, it's pretty much there. In 2019, $12,672. So our revenue is pretty well stable. And as we did the exercise for the Rescue Act lost income, you saw we benefited by able to use the 4% that we were nowhere near. We were actually at a negative 1% revenue rate over the past 4 years. The township fund balance, which was at a high at $5,718,000 in 2016, finished 2020 at $3,426,000. So as anticipated and as budgeted, we've been spending down our fund balance. In 2020, we were able to not realize so much of it because we've cut a lot of programs because of our pandemic spending. We shut services down. We didn't have overtime. We didn't do a lot of projects for the first quarter and a half. So it was an artificial kind of services. However, we did see the financial impact of it. In the same, not patrolling, we didn't spend gas, we didn't use cars. Moving forward on the revenue concerns, our current level of services and capital purchases are not sustainable at our current revenue paradigm, our tax rate. The fund balance, is at its local statutory level, and we should be, as if you read the budget message, we should be able to make it through for 2022. I'm confident because we did get the Rescue Act funding that we were able to augment. MS4 is hanging out there. We have started working with our engineer consultant. However, provisions are probably going to have to be looked at in 2022 to raise a stormwater fee. I mean, our tax base cannot cover the construction requirements and the stormwater requirements of MS4, and at the same time, by going to a fee, you also spread the debt, the obligation out to all property owners, nonprofit and profit. So it's just not for-profit taxpayers. Everybody who has impervious surface pays into it. Again, the MS4 I just have on here, and this is all in the budget again, but we're looking at we're going to need about $813,000 a year to do the projects we need. We're doing all of our paperwork, our back end. That is going to probably have to start for 2023. You're going to have to break dirt. I don't think you can push it off anymore and be, grandfathered in and be looked favorably upon. And at the same time, first-class townships codes still do not have the ability to directly levy a stormwater fee. It has to go through either a created authority or an existing authority. The general fund highlights, if I'm going too fast, just stop me, but I'm trying to get through this. The general fund is conditionally balanced at $16,968,855 for 2022. The proposed general fund budget is roughly $455,000 more than 2021. And if you take a look at that, the police raises hit in, police officers came up to full salary. We've had a 4.5% increase in healthcare, and also our commodities are trending up as everywhere. So as I said, as we increased $455,000, we didn't add any new services. We didn't take on any new projects. This is basically an organic raise. The budget is deficit for 2022 at $1,149,328, and that equals 2.73 mils. This year, we were able to offset, our deficit by using the rescue fund lost revenue formula, which we will have access to funding if the board chooses through 2024 to offset revenue loss. And as we like to say, we have to budget for worst case scenario. So all the line items are high. We very rarely ever budget, but we have to have that budget in case we do have, above average operations, or we have fuel pricing, commodity pricing that goes out of our, off the rail. So we have to come back in and have the budget authority to spend for that. The deficit spending is, has been referenced since 2016, 2017. It's not something we haven't been doing, we've been doing out of practice. It's something, that was planned for. What has helped us this year is the American Rescue Plan Act that is allowing us to greatly reduce our reliance on the fund balance. In this budget, there's roughly $730,000 brought over from the American Rescue Act to offset expenditures. And it's geared into to offsetting police salaries. So, and what we're doing right now, it's early, but we're anticipating between $2 and $3 million at the end of 2021 in our general fund reserve, which is kind of stabilized. And I'm very confident that we'll have the sufficient fund balance to cover us through the first quarter operations, and with no need for a TAN loan. You take a look at budgeting, you take a look at here's the plan, how does it affect the future? We know that eventually the fund balance is going to get to a low enough balance that it's not going to supplement. So something has to be looked at, how to come to determine what level of services, and how do you want to fund for those services. I can honestly say that in doing this budget with our directors, there's no more drops of water to trim out anything that's going to actually, have an impact. $1,000 here, $100 here isn't going to help when you're, at $1.6 million in deficit. So, you could do it, in a couple of different ways, cut service levels, raise taxes. Like I said, there's a 2.73 mils deficit right now in revenue we bring in to revenue we put out. I will say for the record again, I feel it's an obligation. The dispatch center could save $425,000 plus capital costs that are expended for it, should it be turned over to the county. As we talked about, implement ticketing to some of our recreation events, and differing costs between resident and non-resident participation in our programs. It's funded by 100% by North Huntington tax dollars. Probably what we plan to do is undertake a major overhaul of the fee ordinance to make sure that our services that we're charging for are current. We did the exercise in May. $450,000 home comes in assessed at $50,000. We don't get the tax revenue off $450,000 sell price. We have the adjusted assessed price, so that you're seeing about $600 a home if you want to count on that coming in. And at the same time, there's people who need roads done, paving, plowing, or so you bring customers in at an insufficient pace. The adage is that for every dollar of residential real estate tax that you bring in, you put out about $1.25 to $1.30 in services. Whereas industrial, for every dollar of industrial or commercial real estate tax, you bring pavement management systems through CMU robotics program. And that's, so we're trying to get the most bang for the buck. And the board did authorize through through this year that we're going to consolidate our paving to wards, so we're not paying for a wasted mobilization of our paving contractors. In new positions, the only new position that we are proposing in this budget is a planning technician to backfill Director Fonzie's position whenever he was promoted. And as I said, that is at roughly 45% of what the engineer was budgeted for in last year's budget. So, that's not an adverse impact moving forward. And also, we did include intern positions for administration, police, planning, zoning, and parks and rec to help, spread out some of the work that we can do, some of the professional work through interns. Revenue, there is, like I said, $730,000, $800,000 in Rescue Act funding that's going to allow us to offset police salaries, and this is, derived through the formula that the Act puts forward, and that was given in a memo last month. We have $372,000 for stormwater facility maintenance and landslide repairs in the budget. We try to prioritize our capital expenditures, knowing that there's always going to be more projects out there than there are to do. But we take we rank them and prioritize, so we put our money where it's going to be spent the most. This budget again does not propose a $100,000 transfer as in the past to the capital reserve fund. So the capital being leaned out. This is the third year in the row that it's going to be based on the $1 million of taxation that it gets. So that's that trend is eventually going to catch up if you have a good capital cycle. You're constantly feeding your fleet. You're feeding your tools, your maintenance. If you start taking out multiple years, eventually there's going to come a year where you're going to have to buy a lot of trucks, a lot of cars, a lot of equipment because it's simply going to wear out. So that's a trend that's dangerous, but we're doing it this year. Another year, not. We got a 4.5% healthcare increase this year, which is our first healthcare increase in about probably 4 to 5 years, more than like 1%. So that it's kind of caught up to us. And the average healthcare cost for 2021 has been between 5 and 7. So we're kind of right there at the average. And in 2022, our minimum municipal obligation for our pension actually decreased $12,000. Now, that's being said, we're still going to have to contribute roughly about $700,000 from the general fund for our pension obligation. So that's the budget, the general fund in an overview. We can go through the actual accounts, after this. But what we need to do is, what you need to do is come up with a schedule to discuss the budget, come up with a budget to put up for public. It has to be published for inspection 20 days prior to any action, and then it has to be published for final adoption no less than 10 days after the adoption or the inspection ad goes out. So if you'd like to have your budget adopted at the December 15th regular meeting, it would have to be advertised for inspection by November 26th, and it would have to be and then you'd have to have it adopted by, I believe, December 6th would have to be the ad for final adoption. And you do have multiple, regular scheduled meetings between here and there for the adoption. And it is an election, as 2022 is a reorganization year, the budget can be reopened in January, and it would have to be, amended, advertised for, it's a mid-February revision. So that's the snapshot. Do you want to go through the different line items tonight, or?
I have a couple
Okay.
questions. First of all, if you could tell the public how much 1 mil of tax would raise for the township?
We're 421,000 and change.
Okay. And if you could also explain to the public what MS4 is.
MS4 is combined sewer and stormwater systems. It is a way to keep contaminants and biological solids out of the wastewater stream. So what it's trying to do is make sure that the stormwater that is coming through is clean. It's coming up as basically regular water, not polluted stormwater. And it is it's provided, not for the impact that they provide. So we can raise our building permit fees to cover our inspection costs, our administrative costs, or consultants, but we can't raise them because this house is going to cause X amount new stormwater.
Thank you, Jeff.
Board have any other questions on the budget, or just kind of want to maybe follow Jeff's recommendation of discussing over the next few meetings and try to get it posted so we can get it done by a timely manner. All right, thanks,
Okay.
Jeff.
And I believe that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Manager Silka. Plan and Engineering Topics, Director Fonzie.
Yes, excuse me, give me a second while the, there it is, computer catches up. Okay, there were five plans that came through the Planning Commission this month, 3 subdivisions and 2 site plans. The first one is subdivision 21 of 2021, the Nizer Consolidation Plan, and this is in Sheridan Terrace. The owners, the Nizers, own both lots, one with an existing house and one is vacant, but they are combining these lots to accommodate an accessory structure that was built. So once they combine, it's 0.303 acres in size. Planning Commission recommended it with no conditions. Any questions on this one? Okay, the second is subdivision 22 of 2021. This is the Bittner Plan Revision 2. This might look familiar. We saw this same setup in, I believe it was July. Mr. Bittner was unable to acquire a bond. If you remember, he was cutting off a piece. This is the original application. The yellow vacant lot in the back has a barn on it. So once that was separated from the house on the red lot, we asked for a bond while he was building the new house so that it didn't exist on the lot by itself. And the purple square, as you know, he was extending the right-of-way of Paula Drive, which is a paper alley, which the home on the blue lot was using for a driveway. So he was dedicating right-of-way to have enough frontage on all lots in the subdivision. So since he was not able to secure the bond, he's going to keep the barn on the existing house, the red lot. So this is what was submitted first, and now this is what we have. So as you can see, the red lot kind of snakes back to encompass the barn. He's still giving the right-of-way for the lot 3 in the back, the yellow lot. So all lots will still have adequate frontage, and he will not need the bond because he's keeping the barn with the existing house. And he already had the sewage planning approved back in August, I believe, from DEP for the vacant lot. So there were no conditions from the Planning Commission when they approved it. Any questions? Okay, the third subdivision is subdivision 23 of 2021. This is the Phillip consolidation. Philip C. Edwards lives on 408 Mineral Street on Adams Hill. He has 2 lots. One is vacant, one where his home is. The dark shaded lot is where his house is, and the light shaded, he just wants to consolidate. It's actually going to correct a problem because there was a swimming pool built over the property line. So this is just a simple consolidation to correct that error. Any questions on that one? Okay, the first site plan is Site Plan 5 of 2021. This is the Barnes Lake Animal Hospital, and this is at the intersection Clay Pike and Barnes Lake. This was a daycare facility, pretty much an old ranch house that was converted to that daycare facility. Now, the current owner, Teresa Lewandowski, received zoning hearing board approval back in November for a change of a non-conforming use because this is a residentially zoned property. So she was granted the use from the zoning hearing board to run the animal hospital. And what the applicant would like to do is expand, put an addition on. So the blue polygon is the original home. The red is the addition, which would be one level and a new parking lot. So they would have to redo their stormwater system and actually get an HOP because the original daycare center did not have a highway occupancy permit from PennDOT. The applicant is also asking for 4 waivers, as you can see in the memo. The first waiver is section 511.5, which states that the minimum width of landscape island shall be 10 feet. They're proposing an island to be 9 feet in width. The second waiver is section 514.5.b, which states the edges of slopes shall be a minimum of 5 feet from property lines. They are proposing that the toe of their slope will be 3 feet from the property line. The third waiver is section 515.1.a, which states all exterior boundary corners shall be marked with concrete monuments. They are proposing using the 5/8 rebar pins at the exterior boundary in lieu of the concrete monuments. And the last waiver is from section 516.4.e, which states that unless where a stricter requirement is required by the zoning ordinance, a landscape periphery shall be provided at a depth of 5 feet along public right-of-way as measured from the property line. And they're stating that the strip of land along Barnes Lake Road has several utilities going through it, and they don't want to plant or put anything with roots that would disrupt these utilities, gas line, water line, on that strip, so they've agreed to overplant the rest of the site, maybe put more around the building or near the parking lot. So that's what they're requesting. Again, some of their conditions are the HOP from PennDOT, stormwater approval from Conservation District, and they'll have a developers agreement and stormwater O&M agreement with the township. I do want to show you, they will have an underground storage facility. That's the yellow polygon, so that'll be buried under the parking lot. And there's the elevation. So it's going to be a engineered siding type material. The existing house, I believe, is a combination of brick and siding. So this will be like a hardy plank type material. It's using acceptable materials from our zoning ordinance. The building inspector already looked at that and gave it a thumbs up. So that's pretty much it on that one. Are there any questions on the animal hospital?
Ryan, is there any kind of noise buffer plan between this planning and the new Hollybrook development? Is that kennel indoor, outdoor, or how does that kennel plan to work?
Well, I don't know if it's a kennel per se. It would just be bringing sick dogs. It's a lot of, I didn't bring the floor plan, but there's multiple exam rooms. It seems to be all interior for where the animals will be. They're not going to be running free throughout the fenced-in area.
Ryan, if they're not going to be planting along Barnes Lake Road, they will be maintaining the overgrowth, correct?
To be honest, I'm not sure what's there right now. Is it weeds?
It's weeds and it's up way higher than the guardrail.
Okay, we'll make sure that they at least maintain it.
I mean, it's as long as they're maintaining it moving forward,
Yeah,
that's good with me.
yeah. I can reach out. Anybody else? Okay, and the last site plan is Site Plan 7, 2021. This is Hello World Properties, LLC. It's a major land development on Lot 10R, and this is in our industrial park down on Parker Drive off of Colonial Manor Road. And the applicant is proposing a 9,800 square foot warehouse building. This company, the owner is affiliated with Beverly's Birthdays organization, so they're kind of overstuffed where they are. They've outgrown their current location, so this is going to allow them to expand. There will be some office space, but primarily this is going to be warehousing, so it fits into that PED 2 district down in the industrial park. There's the proposed building footprint. They are requesting 3 modifications, waivers to our SAUDO. The first is from section 511.2, which states that off-street parking areas and non-residential use districts shall be located to the side and rear of the buildings wherever possible. The applicant proposes 8 parking spaces in front of the building. So the left side of this drawing, you can see Parker Drive coming up. There will be a driveway coming in. The main entrance is going to be on the left side. So the main door is going to be there, and that's where those 8 spaces are. So they're requesting a waiver from the parking in the front of the building. The next waiver is section 511.14, which states all off-street parking areas in an industrial development shall be suitably illuminated for night use. The applicant proposes lights on the building only since it will be adjacent to residentially zoned property. So this business, from what I understand, is going to be, ending 5, 6, 7 o'clock. It's not going to go on all hours of the night. So to have an illuminated parking lot isn't going to do the employees any good. And again, there are residential areas adjacent to here, the Penns Woods development and even Markview Manor to the south. So they're just requesting that they put wall packs on, maybe with a cutoff, illuminate the building. There shouldn't be much traffic in the industrial park after hours anyway, after 6 o'clock. And the last waiver they're suggesting is from section 516, which states existing healthy vegetation may be sufficient to meet overall landscaping requirements. The applicant plans to use as much existing vegetation as possible to satisfy landscaping requirements. Additional landscaping will be added to the south and west sides of the building. So I don't think I have an aerial photo. Yeah, I do have an aerial photo. So you can see the rear, basically a third of the property is vegetated right now. Those woods kind of in between Penns Woods and Markview Manor. So they do want to keep that intact, and then they will add it throughout the site just as long as they're meeting their overall percentages. The conditions that would be on this plan, NHTMA has to approve their sanitary sewer design. Conservation District has to approve the stormwater management plan. Commercial developers agreement and a stormwater O&M agreement will be required with the township, and all other engineering requirements. I do have the applicants here. I didn't know if the board had any questions for the applicant or how they want to run the business or explain it a little bit more, or if you have any more questions for me.
Any questions from the board? Thanks.
Yeah, would you please tell us what again you guys are going to do there, at that facility?
Excuse me, Lucian, you want to come up to the table and speak in the microphone, please?
Lucian Bove, I'm the engineer for the project. Mike Young is the developer of the project. As Ryan had mentioned, the plan is to locate Beverly's Birthdays facility. Oh, wasn't on. Thank you. At this location, now if you can hear me better, I'm sorry about that. And so it'll be primarily housing of the goods that they use for the nonprofit organization, where they provide a lot of services for underprivileged children and their parents, and they have birthday parties, but they do go way beyond the birthday parties, as far as I know. And that.
Will those
I hope that
birthday
answers your-
parties be at that facility?
No, they are not located there. They have their birthday parties at various locations or at people's houses. They take the products and go there and have the parties. So this is not a party facility. Excuse me. It's for housing their office, which will be a small part but the warehouse will be the majority of the structure.
And what's your estimation of number of employees at that facility?
So they have 6 currently, and we'd like to plan for some expansion. So we did provide 12 parking spaces on the site, which is in excess of what you would need according to the guidance on 1 space per 2 employees.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you planning to seek nonprofit status for tax exemption?
I would have to defer that to the owner, but as far as the property tax you're talking about,
Yes.
I don't think there's been any discussion of, that would be like a alerta, would it be like a alerta or something like that in lieu of taxes? Or, no, that's different. But no, as far as I know, no. The tenant is the nonprofit, right? The owner of the building is not. So maybe that helps clarify. So as far as they're not intending to apply for that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have one question. First off, I work with Mike and Megs a lot. I love what they do. I wish I could help them out more. But I know they do have vehicles. Will these vehicles be stored at that site? Would they be inside? Would they be parked outside?
Maybe Jim, can you help me with that one as well?
Thank you. I'm partners with this program. Their vehicles that the Hello World has will be zero, the owners, but the developers. But the actual tenant does have 2 vehicles, a shuttle bus and like a little bakery bus. One would be inside, being stored, to get filled every night and processed. But the other one probably would be outside, stationed in a location, for cycling. It'd be used for the party van. They load it up, they go to a place, and they come back, they unload, and it sits there for the next cycle. The other one continuously just rotates and brings product in, product out. So you can see probably 2 vehicles a night sitting on site.
And they would be in those parking spots.
Correct. Correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Ryan as well for all the help and assistance and everybody. Commissioners, thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Not seeing any old business on the agenda tonight. Any further board comments? No, I just need a discussion. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Meeting adjourned at 7:55. Executive session to follow, talking about personnel matters.